What's going on, everybody? It's Alondra Marie here on another episode of Out of the Trance, and today we're gonna talk about boundaries, okay? And I'm gonna talk about it like with friends, at work, and family, which is, in my opinion, the hardest one yet, or at least for me. Um, the work one is also kind of hard, because your paycheck depends on how it plays out. But yeah, I want to touch on all three. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. We're going to talk about it. We're going to dive deep. But before I get into it, I kind of want to give you all a little update with what's going on. Instagram. I don't know if I said it on my last episode, but I'm going to say it again. My personal Instagram account got hacked. It was I am Alondra Marie. And I have not been able to recover it. I am trying so hard. Like, Instagram has not messaged me back. But I did make a new Instagram account. It is I am Alondra Marie _. So if you don't follow me on there, follow me. Stay tuned with my music. I do have a song out that I put out in January. It's called Begging. I do have more music coming. However, I also do have a lot of life changes coming. Like, I just got a new job. I'm going to move. Like, there's a lot going on, and so I really hope that you guys are patient with me. Podcast content is easier to put out and to sustain, so you will see more of that in the upcoming months. Also, if you like football and you like women's sports, okay, I play for Arlington Impact in Arlington, Texas, and our season has finally begun. Our game opener was amazing. We won. We played against the Austin Outlaws, and that was a wonderful experience. We have a game in Houston this weekend, and we have many more games to come. If you're interested, the schedule is on the WFA website, or you can hit me up to stay in tune. If you want to come to the games, let me know. If it's in your area, let me know. I would love to see y'all out there. But anyway, so let's get back to the topic that we're supposed to be doing. So, boundaries. Okay. So when I joined the military, I was like 18, 19, whatever. And they moved me to Texas, and I'm from Texas. So I was young. So I was like driving home every weekend, trying to see my parents, hanging out with my parents, because I was so attached to them. And at the time, the conversation of boundaries was not even like a thing for me. I had no idea what it was, none of that. So fast forward, they moved me overseas. I'm out there for like 4 years and some change. For that time frame, I was with somebody, then I wasn't. And so when I wasn't, I was living alone. And I was so used to having that personal space that I don't have to share with somebody, that I don't have to explain to somebody where I'm going, where I'm going to be, where I've been. None of those things, right? And then when I turned 25, they moved me back to Texas. And of course, where did I go? My parents' house, right? But then this time around, things were completely different. I mean, like completely different. And so me and my mom started butting heads, because she rolled right back into how she would engage with me when I was a kid, like before I joined the military, right? Like, she would be like, so where are you going? And how long are you going to be out there? Who are you going to be with? And then when I'm out and about, she'll call me like, where you been? Like, where you going to come home? Things like that, which at the time when I was young, I didn't know any better, obviously, and she's my mother and I'm underage, so she kind of can do that. But then it gets to a point where it's like, when do we stop doing that, right? And my mom and I didn't have that transition. Like, we didn't have that moment where she could be like, she could see me grow up into adulthood, and like, no, like, she didn't get that luxury. And I spent my first few years of adulthood away, and then in another country. And so a lot happened out there, and a lot changed for me in terms of my personality, how I handle people, how, like, I used to be very extroverted, and I think that I still am in social settings, but when I'm home, I'm not. Like, when I'm home, like, I want to be left alone for the most part. Like, I've had roommates, and I had to explain that to them, like, hey, don't take it personal. I just want to, it's not about you, it's about me. You know what I mean? So my mom and I started butting heads, and we started arguing because she would do things like, she would come into my room without knocking, right? now, like when I was 25, like staying in the house for vacation, right? Before I would actually move to where I was stationed to. Like this is, I had just landed from Japan, y'all. So there's already a lot going on. And then she's in my space, and I know that she meant well. Like I know that she just was so excited to have me back. But, you know, it sucked because, and how do I explain to you that I've changed, and I'm excited to be back. And when I'm out on the, in the living room, in the kitchen, I'm excited to spend time with you. But when I come into this room, that's me time, And so we started butting heads. She would like come into the room unannounced or blow up my phone. And I know that she wasn't doing any of that with bad intentions, but I started getting frustrated. And so I remember one day we argued. And I'm like trying to explain it to her. I'm like, things aren't the same anymore. Like the most I'm going to give you is my location. I will always give my mom my location, because if something happens, I want her to know at least relatively where my last location was, right? Or give her that peace of mind, to at least know where I'm at, right? I like doing that part. That wasn't her. But, like, I'm like, I'll give you that. I'll give you my location, but I can't have you, I can't be hanging out with a friend and you blowing up my line. You can't do that. You can't do that. I'm grown. Because when I was in Japan for all those years, you wouldn't do that because you didn't even know what I was up to. So coming back to the States, it's almost like you have now visibility of my every move during my time here for vacation, and now you're doing this. So we have to talk about that, right? Or we have to talk about like, hey, when you come to the room, like knock on the door, because y'all, this was something, it's so funny because when I was little, like I don't think I ever told her, but I hated it when she would like, because the doors didn't have locks on those houses, they're kid rooms, and it still is, right? And so she would just barge into the room. What are you doing? And I'm in my teenage years, so so y'all can already think about where I'm going with this, like, and she has definitely walked in on me like when I was little. I don't think she knows that, and I'm sure she could figure that out because she's grown and she knows better. But and I would get frustrated because I'm thinking, damn, like, you don't. Let me revert back. She didn't walk in on me. She almost walked in on me, because obviously that would have been a crazy ass story to tell. But I don't think I'm sure she can put two and two together. But she never saw anything, thankfully. Y'all get where I'm going with this? Okay, so if that was happening when I was young, then it was I'm not surprised that it happened again as an adult. She didn't walk in on me or almost walk in on me or nothing. It was just the principle. Okay, let me make it clear. It was just the principle that she would just walk into my room unannounced. Now that I'm an adult, and she's like not taking into account what I could be on the phone, what I could be doing that she might not want to see, right? So. Oh, I love my mom so much, but it's just, and I know that it's hard for her to break that, to unlearn that behavior, because she never saw me kind of grow into adulthood. She just saw me as an adult when I came back, which I know can be difficult for a parent. But we had to have that conversation, because it gets to the point where if you don't have the conversation, right? The reason I told y'all that story is because if you don't have the conversation at any point, which I didn't when I was a teenager, and I didn't as an adult, guess what? It kept happening. And now that I'm an adult, I just lashed out and started arguing with her. But I know that wouldn't have happened if we had just talked about it. Now that we talked about it, things are different. Now when I come home and I stay there and I say, hey, I'm going to go meet up with a friend, she knows to not blow up my line, but she has my location. So she knows if something does happen, she has that. And she knows that I will come home, and if I'm not gonna come home, then I let her know, and she's cool with that too. Because at the end of the day, like, my mama doesn't deserve for me to treat her shitty. I know she's just doing it because she cares about me. But yeah, little things like that, we had to have that conversation, right? Another story, with friends. Okay, with friends, I have friends that would want to be in my personal space all the time, like come over to my house all the time. And I'm like, that's cool and all, but like, I don't need you here every single time. Like, I want to be alone. I want to be able to like be naked and walk around and do the things that I want to do. Or they they would look at my phone when I'm texting people. Like, boundaries, privacy, personal space. You know, like, why would you be looking at my phone? Anyways, if you're a friend of mine, like, I get some friends are that comfortable with each other, but like, I'm talking about like the newer friends, people like right off the bat that just don't have that kind of boundary, that don't have that sense of personal space. Like, what? Right? And then my last story would be at work, right? Boundaries at work. So I'm big on boundaries at work. Like, that's the biggest place where with friends I'm big on it, but I think parents, family, and work are my biggest ones. So at work now with this new job, because I've learned a lot of things from my last job, is I'm gonna, and I told him this, I'm like, I'm gonna do my work and I'm gonna deliver what you expect from me, nothing more, nothing less. You're not gonna be in my personal space. Like, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna be telling me what to, trying to dig into my life if I don't want to share about it. I'm not gonna be telling you about my medical appointments or whatever appointment it is. Like, if I gotta take time off, I'm gonna take the time off. You know, a lot of things in walls that I have to put up for the sense of boundary, because when I was in my last job, they were all up in your space. I mean, they would go to your house if you didn't answer the phone. They would, which they can. Or if, you know, like if you're going to an appointment and you put medical on the calendar and they would be like, what's it for? Like, what's going on? Like, boundaries. Do you even need to know? You know, so things like that were happening all around in my life and I was not cool with it. And I had to just figure out a way. In an earlier episode, I was talking about saying no. I think that coincides a lot with setting boundaries, because what happens is when you don't set boundaries, you kind of allow people too much access to you, and then when you do decide to put up a boundary, now you're the bad guy. You're not really the bad guy, but to them, you're the bad guy, right? Like, they think, oh, you're putting up a boundary, and they take it personal and they make it about them. Like, it happens. It can happen, but only because you're allowing them access to you from the get-go. Now, if you're transparent about your boundaries and you're clear about, hey, this has nothing to do with you, this is me. Like, when I first got roommates, I said, hey, like I said earlier, hey, I don't like to hang out too much. If you see me go to my room and isolate myself, it has nothing to do with you, but I just want to let it be known because I don't want it to be a problem. Boom. Boundary, conversations done, transparent. They already know it has nothing to do with them. Same thing at work. When I was in the military and I would say, hey, I have an appointment, and they'd be like, for what? I'm like, it's an appointment. It's a medical appointment. For what? I'm like, you don't need to know. And if it was a really big problem, we could take it up to somebody else. Boundary. Now with my mom, I'll be like, hey, I'm going to go out. I'll let you know if I'm going to come home or not. You have my location. Please be respectful. Okay, boom. Boundary. Because what was happening before is when I was younger, yeah, I would be at work and they'd be like, where are you going to go? I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to go get my knee checked and I got to go to mental health. What started happening? They started using that shit against me at work. They'd be like, oh, because you got mental health stuff. Oh, because your knee's bad. Oh, how's your knee bad? But you're going to go play sports. And so, you know what I mean? And then at that point, it's like, damn, they have a lot of access to me. And that's my fault. I did that. I gave them that access, you know? So, moral of the story, okay, of all these stories that I told y'all today, the minute something feels uncomfortable, or it feels like it's invading your personal space, or it's not going with your values and your morals, right? Set the boundary, communicate, explain. But preferably, set those boundaries beforehand. So with a new friend, a significant other, a new job, speak up. Say, hey, these things make me uncomfortable. These things I'm not okay with. I want you to respect this boundary. When I want to go to the gym and be there for 3 hours, understand that that's what I'm doing and that I'm not out here cheating on you. Like, boundary. When I'm in the studio making music or painting, whatever your hobbies are, respect it because that's my hobby. Doesn't mean that I don't want to spend time with you, but I need you to respect that. Boom. That simple. Because what happens is if you start being like, okay, I guess I won't be at the gym too long because I want to hang out with you. Or I guess I'm going to tell you all my business at work, you know, because I feel like I feel pressure to do so even though I don't need to. Or I guess I'm going to keep letting my parents barge into my room and blow up my line when I'm not home yet, even though I'm already in my mid-20s. What's going to happen is they're just going to keep doing it. And when you decide that you don't want it done anymore, then they get mad and then you become the bad guy. And it's a very frustrating situation. But the reason I think boundaries are so important is not only for the relationship between you and the person, you and the company, you and your significant other. It's for the sake of your peace and your energy, so that it is not disturbed, so that you're not feeling stressed out, so that you're not feeling out of whack, so that you stay focused on the things that you're supposed to be doing and you continue to preserve your energy, your peace, and that you are always feeling well. Because in my opinion, when I don't stick to my boundaries and I let people in a way that I don't want them in, it throws me off track. Like I don't do the things I'm supposed to be doing. I start feeling distraught, you know what I mean? But again, just be transparent and clear about how it has nothing to do with them, and that way maybe they can understand, and then maybe teach them. A lot of the times I did not know anything about boundaries. Sorry, I hit my microphone. I don't know anything about boundaries, and honestly, the person that taught it to me was somebody that I was seeing intimately right after my marriage, and she taught me a lot of things about boundaries, because I had none and I wasn't respecting hers. Like, she had boundaries and I took them all personal at first. Like, I was like, wow, you don't want to hang out with me, or wow, you want to prioritize, sports for this, or you want to prioritize whatever hobby she had for. Like, I can't say them out loud because I don't want people to know or figure out who it is. But it's just one of those things where I learned the hard way, and now I'm adamant about that shit, and I am grateful that she taught me that. Unfortunately, she probably felt like I didn't respect her boundaries, and I completely understand because I didn't know any better at the time. But now I do, and I started applying that at work. I started applying that with my family, and I'm in a better place mentally than I've ever been before. And now when I look for partners, or in this sense, I was looking for a new job, I know what things to tolerate, what not to tolerate, and I'm a much happier person overall. But anyways, I'm done rambling about boundaries. Honestly, I feel like boundaries is such a topic that is such a big topic that might come up throughout my series. I know that I had said that I was going to bring a guest, but we're having technical difficulties with scheduling. We're both very busy people. I really, really, really want her to come on to my podcast. So I'm very determined to make that happen. But in the meantime, just be patient with me. If you have topics that you want to hear about, that you want to inquire about, you want to hear me talk about, or if there's questions that you have that you want me to answer them on this podcast, I would love to do so. I want to make this a conversation, a two-way conversation. I know that right now it's just me talking to y'all, but I know that y'all probably have ideas and questions or things that you want to hear about on this podcast. I'm very grateful for your support. The little bit of people that do listen, that do watch, I'm so, so grateful. Follow my TikTok account for this podcast, which is Out of the Trance. There's an Instagram account called Out of the Trance. And then obviously your favorite podcast streaming site. Hit the subscribe button, follow the podcast, and then also stay in tune with my music career. Hopefully I keep doing big things. Bye.